Good evening. It's Daily Recall, January 12th. My name's Stoukas, coming to you live from Sarnia, Ontario. Hope everybody had a nice weekend. So today on the X of my social media timeline, the big thing is Iran. Iran, the uprising in Iran. And instead of talking about Canada, we're talking about Iran, just like we're talking about Venezuela last week. And a lot of people are pushing for like a regime change in Iran because of the supposed like these riots or whatever going on over there. And a lot of Canadian politicians are pouring their hearts out for Iranian freedom. The same politicians who were silent during COVID, when all these COVID all these COVID measures were imposed on Canadians, vaccine passports, all that. And then when they protested, the Canadian people, they basically invoked the War Measures Act, which is called Emergencies Act now, to crack down on legitimate protests against the COVID tyranny. And now, but now the Iranian protests, that's cool in their book. Like the Canadian politicians. Anyway, it's more of a regime change for Israel, of course, but they're making it look like this. They care about the Iranian people, and we've seen this before. Iraq, 20 years ago, they said, "Oh, it'll be things will be much better if we get rid of Saddam." Instead, they destroyed the country, and millions of refugees flooded into Europe and to Canada. And it's still a destabilized country. I mean, it's probably gotten a little better. And then you got Libya. They wanted to do a regime change there to free the Libyan people. What happened there? 2014. They killed Gaddafi. Instead, it's a open air slave market, and millions of African refugees make their way into Europe as a result. Before Gaddafi actually had quite kept a lid on things, on refugee flows into Europe via Libya. So yeah, that regime change didn't work out either. And then you got the regime change in Syria, where they basically destabilized the country, and it was like horrors, like battles between different groups, and like civilians, of course, were killed, and millions had to flee the country. A lot of them came to Canada, tens of thousands of refugees. So they want to do the same thing in Iran, what they did with those three countries. That's basically what's going on, in my opinion. And Canada's going to suffer because we're just going to get, Canada and Europe are going to get millions and millions of refugees. Like, there's like 90 million people in Iran. So that's a lot of refugees. And they don't care about the Iranian people. These people calling for Trump to bomb Iran or whatever. They've been trying to bomb Iran for a long time. So they care about regime change. And if they don't change the regime, break the country up into little states that are easy to control. But Canada's going to get all these refugees as a result. It's the same playbook. So whoever cheers for it in Canada, basically you're cheering for Israel, because that's their enemy. Okay, if they want to take out their enemy, or if they don't like their enemy, that's fine. But for Canada, it's a big negative to, encourage instability in Iran. If the Iranians want to get rid of the government, go for it. I want to get rid of our government here. But it's up to them, just like it's up to us here. Like, I wouldn't want somebody coming from outside especially Israel, to say, "Oh, we're going to help you regime change your government." So it's just about endless war. But so I guess Trump said he's going to put tariffs on people who trade with Iran. So maybe that is, instead of bombing them, he'll go with the tariffs. But he's under a lot of pressure to bomb Iran from Netanyahu and all this. Lindsey Graham and U.S. Senator John Cornyn. Target Iran. Hit Iran now. Hit them hard. He sounds like he's having sex or something. Lindsey Graham. Weirdo. And there's Tucker Carlson, who doesn't swear a lot, but he said effing lunatics. They are lunatics. Warmongers. But a lot of Canadian people, like shills or influencers, are really, they're more excited about this than they are about what's going on in Canada. I'm more worried about what's going on in Canada. Like the millions of scamming Indians invading Canada and our traitor leaders ruining Canada. I'm more worried about that than Israel doing regime change in Iran, But I guess I've lost followers because of it, I'm sure. But I don't care. I don't want to be on the same side as these crazy people. Warmonger, neocon, all the neocon warmongers and the hardcore Zionists are totally in favor of this. Ben Shapiro, Bill Ackman, like Netanyahu, of course, and then these two. So basically, I do the opposite of what they want. All right. Anyway, that's basically what dominated my feed today. What's this? Pay attention to those calling for the regime change in Iran. They're not doing it because they care about those people. How do I know that? Because they don't give a fuck about their own people. Good point. How are you expecting me to believe that they care about those hundreds, thousands of kilometers away? They want to change the regime so the Jews could put their puppet in charge. Someone who would work for their interests instead of working against them. Yeah, either that or break it up, because Iran's a big country, so they would love to break it up into pieces, and then you can control those little pieces, put in your guy, or have like instability like Syria, because it's easier to control. So, but all that's gonna, like I said, as a Canadian, all it's gonna mean for Canada is more refugees. I guarantee it. Just like it's happened all the other regime changes in recent years. Next, Dave Smith. People who supported Israel committing a genocide for 2 years are suddenly very concerned about human rights violations in the Middle East, and coincidentally, it happens to be with the regime that is Israel's chief regional rival. But don't let that fuck with you. Yeah. They basically pulverized all of Gaza and killed like tens of thousands of people. Not all Hamas, like women and children. And now they're worried about a few Iranian protesters. They're not worried about the protesters. It's so obvious, though. I mean, you shouldn't have to say it. Next. So instead of worrying about, we have Iran on the mind here, but in Canada, we're going into third world nation status with all our imported crime. The latest is a organized auto crime group recovering. So at the time these guys were on release orders, this gang was on release orders in relation to property offenses. So yeah, this is what we're importing into Canada, and a lot more of this is going to come if these forever wars continue. It's going to come regardless, but it'll come big time. So instead, instead of talking about Canada, we're talking about Iran. Pierre Polyev, too. Here's Polyev talking about the extortion crisis in Brampton. Gangs are threatening families and extorting small businesses in Brampton. Mark Carney must provide Peel Region with dedicated federal task force funding and a joint task force embedded directly with Peel Regional Police. Canadians have a right to be safe, lock up gangsters, and protect our streets. And so this is basically Indian gang members extorting Indians. And it's happening in Brampton, happening in BC, at Alberta. And that's part of my plank is, see, Pierre doesn't mention the problem, what the cause of the problem is. He just wants to throw more money at it and pander to these ethnic groups. Like, how many millions of dollars is that going to cost in police enforcement when all we have to do is ban all immigration from India? Anything else, it's just a waste of time. But that's how they talk. Like, same with the housing. Oh, build more houses. No, how about we just not import millions of primarily Indians into Canada instead of build houses, or jail, not bail. No, deport. He doesn't mention any of this, though. That's why I don't like Pierre. Now, this guy, another Indian guy, Arsalan Chaudhry, has been arrested in an investigation into the theft of more than $20 million in gold bars, the largest gold heist in Canadian history. This took place at Toronto Pearson International Airport in 2023. Yes, so now we got their gold robbers too. All right. They get into everything. Extortion, gold robbing, gold heists, auto thefts. They got their toes in it. They're dipping their toes in everything. Next, Australia too is going to follow. We're going to follow the fate of Australia. They're cracking down on basically any group that's opposed to mass immigration in Australia. Instead of responding, that's in response to that shooting on Bondi Beach. So instead of like, hey, maybe we should stop immigration, they want to crack down on their own population. So I thought this was notice the pattern. Jews arrive in Australia, flooded with non-whites. Non-whites rampage, eventually turning on Jews. Jews then push new anti-Semitism laws, also known as free speech bans, gun control to disarm whites, and ban white nationalist groups for noticing. Yeah. This is the Prime Minister. This is going to happen in Canada. So yeah, instead of like saying, maybe we should think about this whole immigration thing, he's like, this is what he wants.
Recalled next Monday and Tuesday, both the House of Representatives and the Senate. The legislation will then be debated on Tuesday in the House of Representatives. We intend to have that legislation pass the House before question time, which will occur at the normal time at 2 o'clock, and then will be considered by the Senate in the afternoon in order to ensure its passage on that day. The bill is the Combating Anti-Semitism, Hate and Extremism Bill. It's a comprehensive package of reforms which creates serious offences for hate preachers and leaders seeking to radicalise young Australians. It increases the penalties for hate crimes offences. It ensures that offenders whose crimes were motivated by extremism have that factored into their sentencing. It creates a new offence for inciting hatred in order to intimidate or harass. It expands and strengthens the ban on prohibited symbols, and it makes it easier for the Minister for Home Affairs to cancel or refuse a visa for people intent on spreading hatred. And it creates a new framework that will enable the Minister for Home Affairs to list organisations as prohibited hate groups.
This is Carney's buddy.
Once an organisation is listed, it will be a criminal offence to be a member, to recruit for it, to donate or receive funds or support that group in any way. The legislation will also set up the National Guns Buyback Scheme, bringing Australia's world-leading gun laws into the 21st century and getting...
Anyway, that's going to happen in Canada too. Like, basically he's saying is, instead of cracking down on immigration and not letting all these third world terrorists into Australia, we're going to crack down on nationalist groups in Australia, like whatever nationalist groups they have who are opposed to immigration. That's their response. So a guy shoots up a beach, a Muslim guy, shoots up a bunch of Jewish people on a beach. And this is their response is basically going after nationalist groups who would have, not let that guy in the country in the first place, who shot up the beach. So it's bizarre. And they're going to do the same in Canada. And not only that, they're making it illegal to fund or to donate. So let's say they say, okay, Dominion Society in Canada, for instance, is a hate group. They're going to call it a hate group or anti this, whatever he said just now. So whoever donated to Dominion Society will be considered a supporter of whatever terrorism. So that's just example of what they want to do. So it's so weird. Instead of listening to the people about immigration, they'd rather start wars in the Middle East and crack down on their own population. It's crazy. Here's Steve Bannon. He's criticizing all the push for war against Iran. I thought it was interesting what he said here.
Every now and again, they would show American troops. But is it gross what Fox does? It's just so gross. Here's why it's gross. Think about what they did in Iraq. Think of what they did in Iraq. The cheerleading. And then they abandon it. Then when they don't get the ratings, when it starts to be a quagmire, they just kind of walk away from it. Every now and again, they would show American troops, but they walked away from it. Just gross. Gross people. Horrible people.
Yes, I agree.
Horrible people. And Lindsey Graham. The people in South Carolina, I just don't know how you put up with it, man. He's just sick. He's a sick individual. Make Iran great again. We don't care about Iran, and we don't care about making Iran great again.
Me neither.
The Persians are in the streets. They're going to make it great again. It's in their hands. Let them deal with it. They brought it on. The Islamic Republic. They brought it on back in 1979, 1980. They brought it on. Now it's time to, you want to cleanse it, you got to cleanse it yourself. Can't do it with outside. Can't do it with outside forces. Can't do it with Israel. Do Israel and the United States in there. You're just going to prolong the problem.
What's up, bro?
So, I like that clip because it kind of expresses how I feel about the whole thing. We've seen this show before. It's all lies. It's all lies. We need to focus on our problems in Canada. It's not being an isolationist, because literally the leaders of Iran aren't really whatever the Iranian policies have nothing to do with Canada. And like Steve Bannon said there, let them figure it out. Wish them all the best. Here's a comment on the Australian Prime Minister. This is the clip we just saw. Anthony Albanese announced Parliament will be recalled next Monday to force through a combating anti-Semitism, hate and extremism omnibus bill. He admits the NSN, which is kind of like NSN, National Socialist. I don't even know the name. That's like their kind of like second sons in Canada, has acted below the threshold of actually breaking any laws, so they're gonna lower the standard to be what they define as hate. So basically they're making it's gonna be a broader hate law coming into Australia. It's gonna happen in Canada too. But those Australians, the Australian government, they did the same thing with COVID. They really hate their own people. Look at this guy. Okay. And next here, we got Canadian MP Roman Baber. He cares more about Israel than Canada. Like, all he talks about is Israel. And now he's worried about the Iranian people. He's Canadian MP, smokes his cigar a burning picture of Iran's leader. This is a Canadian member of parliament. Like, that's embarrassing. Like, you should call him the member for an Israeli member of parliament. But like, he's not the only conservative. All the conservatives are like, oh, free Iran and free Iran. But, you know, during COVID, they didn't say anything. They literally didn't say anything. Baber, he did say something during COVID, but he talks more about Israel than he does about Canada. Now, obviously, you know, he's happy. He's happy to join in the regime change propaganda. Here's another one, a good post. I don't give a fuck about Iran. My people are actively getting replaced in my homeland. Yeah, exactly. We're getting overwhelmed over here, you know, literally overwhelmed. Go to Walmart on a Saturday night, you'll see what I'm talking about. So yeah, I'm not worried about Iran. If you're more worried about Iran than you are about millions of scamming Indians invading Canada, and our trader leaders, then I don't know what to tell you. Because I was seeing on the news today how scams are like at an all-time high. Who do you think's doing those scams? The Iranians? I don't think so. No Iranian ever tried to scam my phone or send me a text scam. It's all Indians. Here's John Mearsheimer. He's made a lot of predictions. Like, a lot of his stuff is solid. He says Israel is pushing the U.S. towards war with Iran to divert global attention so they can easily carry out the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. I mean, we've been saying a long time that Israel wasn't done with Iran. Like, they had that 12-day war, and then Trump bombed the facilities, but we knew it was going to happen again. And this, I don't know if this will work, if they'll use this as an excuse to bomb them. Let's see what John Mearsheimer says.
So I think that's before I do that, I just want to say one thing about why a
Smart
general
guy.
conflagration is such an opportunity for ethnic cleansing. You want to remember the Israelis have done two massive ethnic cleansing. One was in 1948 and the other was in 1967. And both of those cleansings took place in the context of major wars. The Israeli War of Independence in 1948 and the Six-Day War in 1967. And that's when the Israelis cleansed. And the idea is if you get a general conflagration, the United States and everybody else will be focusing on Iran versus the United States, and it'll be a situation where the Israelis can cleanse. So I think that's a very important reason for wanting to do this.
Yeah, and then cleanse. If they do that cleansing, if he's right on that, where do you think they're going to cleanse them to? Canada. Of course. Here's Dominion Society of Canada. Speaking of them, Canada has always been a white majority country and it should stay that way. Yes. So it's kind of obvious, but if that was said in Australia under these new laws that they want to bring in after this Muslim guy shot up a beach, they're going to go after. If they say this in Australia under these new laws, they will get charged. So, Dominion Society of Canada. Anyway, white majority country, it should stay that way. Canada was successful. It wasn't until they started filling it up with people from third world countries that it became unsuccessful. And obviously our trader leaders too. So I don't think it's anything groundbreaking to say that. I'm sure, but like I said, that would be illegal in Australia, and once that law passes, probably it's illegal now. All right, and there's Roman Baber again. F. Khamenei. This is an MP in Canada. So if they're not we saw like these Indian MPs talking about Indian problems, Now we got this Israeli MP talking about, or this Jewish MP talking about Israeli problems, because Iran's an Israeli problem. It's not our problem. So it's one thing or the other. They don't talk about Canada, though. It's either the Indian guy or the Sikh guy talking about something that happened 300 years ago, or it's this Israeli dude or Jewish dude talking about Israel's enemy. There, Khamenei, F. Khamenei, free Iran. So yeah, apparently Canadian Parliament talk about everything except Canada. All right. James Lee. It's wild that they couldn't find anybody in Iran to be the face of this revolution, but instead there's an entire propaganda campaign based on an old photo of some chick in Canada, totally unrelated. Kind of telling, isn't it? Yes, this chick in Toronto. First of all, she shouldn't be smoking. It's bad for you. But she took this picture a few years ago in Toronto, and they're using it as the big show of courage, I guess, for women. It's so astroturf, this. Like, look at this freedom. Maybe I'm just very cynical. Very cynical. All right. There's Australia screwed. But it's like, it's all connected here. Like the Australia thing, the Iran thing. So, because the these traitor leaders of ours have no problem going to war and saying it's to protect Iranians. At the same time, they're passing all these hate laws and importing millions of invaders to replace you. So it's all connected. They're not looking out for Iranians, and they're not looking out for you. They're looking out for themselves. Australia will pass the toughest hate law ever seen on Tuesday. Yes. Australia's screwed. This will be illegal, this cartoon, in Australia. But I like this cartoon. We Albertans are separating from Canada. That's funny. Because, yeah, Alberta wants to separate, but I don't think all the new Canadians in Alberta are going to vote for separation. So it'll be interesting when that kind of conflict comes out into the open. If the Albertans lose that referendum by a little bit, and as Jacques Parizeau says, the ethnic vote is the difference, then there'll be some upset Albertan separatists. All right. I thought that was a funny cartoon. Yeah, so I guess the question is, what's if these things in Iran peter off, or if they decide to bomb Iran and to support the oppressed Iranian people. I don't know. I don't think he's going to bomb them. I think he's just talking. Here's Juno News. Carney and his Liberal government have finally broken their silence on the intensifying protests threatening to topple the dictatorship in Iran. So yeah. I like this one. Yeah, like all these Canadian media organizations and influencers, they're right on this train. But like I said, I'm more worried about what's going on in Canada. That's it. So we'll talk about some Canadian stuff sometime. I'm sure the stuff will be coming up. Like Australia, similar laws like Australia doing. It's coming up. We'll see. Anyway, tomorrow's next broadcast, January 13th. We'll see if they start bombing them by then. Until then, have a nice night.